It's Gaming BAFTA week here in the UK, and by the time you watch this, the 2021 BAFTAs will have happened, and a game certainly will have won Game of the Year. Which one, I don't know, as I'm making this video before the ceremony, but whoever you are, well done. As someone who believes that games are an important medium with as much legitimacy as art as film, the fact that the British Academy of Film and Television Arts created a third awards show to celebrate the achievements of the industry is genuinely pleasing to me. And what's more, the prestige of this makes this awards show much better than a certain other show. Happening in December every year, Geoff Keighley's The Game Awards are often an excruciating affair that I watch for any announcements, but always come away from annoyed. The contrast between the two award shows is staggering, and it's about time that I dragged the Game Awards for its terribleness, while pointing to the BAFTAs as the benchmark they should be aiming for. Here are 6 reasons why the Game Awards are bad, and here the BAFTAs show that they could be much better. Pop quiz. If a show is called The Game Awards, what do you expect the bulk of the show to be about? If you answered award presenting, then Geoff Keighley laughs right in your face. December 2020's Game Awards was 3.5 hours long, including the so-called pre-show. 2 hours and 45 minutes of this runtime was dedicated to literally anything but awards. And that's right, only 20% of the most recent Game Awards was dedicated to awards, a baffling percentage for a show with awards in its name. The apparent disdain for giving out awards at the award show can be seen best whenever Geoff or a co-host reels off a number of awards in one go, without really pausing to let any winner bask in its glory. The fact that about 5 awards were given out in the pre-show is equally baffling. Compare this to the 2020 BAFTAs, where each award was given room to breathe and allow the nominees and the winners to be celebrated, to commend their efforts and recognise their achievements. That's what an award show should be. So, what fills the other 80% of the Game Awards? Ads, basically. While I have no objection to the new announcements that take place within the show, the fact that these announcements take priority over actual awards make the show a slog. The odd trailer between awards would be fine, but instead they linger on each game forever. Look, I'm down for whatever's going on in that spiritual successor to Dead Space, but I don't need Glenn Schofield being interviewed for 10 minutes in an awards show. Even the presentations at E3 started to realise that the audience got rapidly bored with lengthy dev interviews and pushed them aside for a rolling set of trailers instead. So I expect even less of it in a show that allegedly is about giving out awards for the previous year's best games. But it isn't all ads. Sometimes it's so much worse. Remember this guy? The Schick Hydrobot, a sentient razor. This was a thing at the Game Awards in 2016, and it lives on in infamy to this day. But while everyone likes to pick on this specifically, it is merely an icon for the wider problem of Game Awards cringe. Hey kids, here's the Swedish chef doing an awkward skit with Geoff Keighley. Here are the stars of Cobra Kai doing a stilted, awkward awards presentation that puts more focus on themselves and the Karate Kid than the games they're supposed to be talking about. Here's an ad all about vaping, where the normally excellent Alana Pierce embarrasses herself in front of thousands. And what was the point of Tom Holland being here? There's a weird sense of corporate japery about the Game Awards, like they feel they have to be funny and silly to appeal to the gamers, but it all feels like something cooked up by an AI with no understanding of human emotions, or CEOs as we like to call them. The closest I could find the BAFTAs doing anything this cringeworthy were attempts at jokes delivered by the usual host for the past few years, Dara O'Brien. And when I say attempts, I mean successful attempts, because Dara O'Brien is a professional stand-up comedian.
Even Fallout 76 has got a Battle Royale mode, but that's really because there's only one person still playing it.
It also helps that he's a comedian who actively plays and loves games himself too, so it never feels like a guy forced on stage for a paycheck, which is something the Game Awards seems to do a lot. Do you know what this show about awarding the best games of the past year needs? What do you mean, more awards for games? I was talking about music performances. Now, I will be fair here. Eddie Vedder performing Future Days after it showed up in The Last of Us 2, fine. Churches performing the song they specifically wrote for Death Stranding, fine. But in 2019, the point where I flat out stopped watching the ceremony was the point where a Green Day concert broke out. Why were Green Day there? I have no idea. They had no involvement in a game from that year, nor are they particularly current artists to bring on for the kids. but they played a big old set anyway to fill time in a show that was already bloated and an hour longer than it needed to be. Thanks, Geoff, just what we needed. At the last show there was a whole song performed by a fictional band. I don't know who this is, nor do I know what it has to do with video games, but it was in the show. The BAFTAs in 2019 opened with an operatic medley of game themes, but that was mostly it for music performances. And I'm okay with game music medleys, which is why I don't complain about the London Philharmonic Orchestra blending music from Hades into the Animal Crossing New Horizons title theme, especially as it creates a lot of bombast around the Game of the Year award. In fact, this is the one thing that the show gets right without fail. But then again, I am a sucker for a good music medley. But musicians aren't the only celebrities that like to show up bizarrely at the Game Awards. At the 2020 Game Awards, Geoff Keighley seemed to really like Tenet. In fact, more so than he did the games the show was supposed to be celebrating. That's possibly the only reason why he kept hyping up Christopher Nolan and John David Washington as awards presenters. Elsewhere, Gal Gadot and Brie Larson were hyped up for their appearances, along with an appearance by Tom Holland. Now, one thing you might notice about these people is that none of them have anything to do with video games. Instead, the Game Awards is a cavalcade of Hollywood names Geoff Keighley can shout excitedly in a desperate attempt to garner hype. As has been a theme so far in this video, it sidelines actual game developers in favour of big celebrity names who have nothing to do with games. Tom Holland's appearance was loosely related since he's playing Nathan Drake in an ill-conceived Uncharted movie, but even then he passes over to actual Nathan Drake actor Nolan North in a move that just highlights how pointless Holland's entire presence is. Keanu Reeves is perhaps the only name who had a justification of being there because you might have noticed he was in a video game around that time. I got curious about who the BAFTAs typically gets as its guest presenters. 2020 was a no-go as everything was just Dara O'Brien from his living room because a pandemic suddenly landed on them. But looking at 2019, here are just some of the awards presenters. Siobhan Reddy, head of Media Molecule, Jessica Curry, esteemed game composer, Ken Wong, designer of Monument Valley, Lena Raine, composer for Celeste, Greg Rice of Double Fine, Tamim Antoniades of Ninja Theory, and garnering the biggest applause of the night, legendary designer Brenda Romero. The closest the entire show got to celebrity appearances was some YouTubers, actor Colin Salmon, who was brought out to present the award for acting, so there was a logic to that, and Charlie Brooker, who created a show about how technology like video games will probably kill us all. If you feel like that's not a close enough association with games, you can also shoot his testicles off in a Sniper Elite game. Does that work? Geoff Keighley's approach seems like an attempt to give the award show some legitimacy. After all, the Oscars red carpets have all these big celebrity names garnering a lot of attention, so if we have them in our show, it'll look as legit as the Oscars, right? But when you compare it to the BAFTA's approach, it becomes more apparent how desperate that approach is. After all, the reason the Oscars are full of Hollywood movie industry names presenting awards is because it's a movie industry awards show in Hollywood. Of course people from the movie industry are going to be there, it's their show. Which is why when established names in gaming come out to hand their peers awards, it looks much more legitimate. In fact, that looks more like the Oscars. Sure, more people know who Brie Larson is than Jessica Curry, but only one of these two people feels like they're there out of a love of the games industry. That's not to question Brie Larson's interest in games, because she might be super into them. But if she is, it is a lot less obvious than the woman who hosts a regular BBC radio show about video game music and made the music for Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. I'm just saying. There's something almost insulting about all of these approaches from the Game Awards. A sense that, okay, yeah, those games were good, but they're old now. Here are some new fancy games you should care about more. That talking about game development is boring, that viewers need to be distracted with musicians and movie stars because game devs aren't interesting enough in their own right. But this is not the only way that the Game Awards doesn't feel like it respects the devs on the ground. Around the last Game Awards, Kotaku came under fire for a piece detailing why studios like Naughty Dog don't deserve to be nominated for Best Direction and suggested that Supergiant, developers of Hades, should have won over them. Naughty Dog won Best Game Direction at the last Game Awards. This was the same studio that forced its employees into harsh 12-hour days, including weekends. The studio that saw its employees hospitalised due to overwork, or staff needing weeks to recover from stress. Are we sure this is Studio of the Year that produced the best direction of any game? A studio overworking its staff to ruinous effect when one of its fellow nominees was forbidding employees from answering email on weekends and demanding they take time off? Naughty Dog are not the only studio guilty of this kind of exploitation, but maybe in a year where they've been in the news for that exact thing, it might not be a good look to hand them an award for doing so. Now, while Hades being a roguelike doesn't appeal to me remotely, the fact that management and Supergiant were much more open to staff well-being, while still producing a game that consistently sat atop many publications' Game of the Year lists, sort of suggests they might have deserved that award just a little bit more. This is not a problem exclusive to the Game Awards, of course, but it's one that the BAFTAs is attempting to rectify. While it doesn't apply to this year, the BAFTAs have recently announced that going forward they will require all nominees to report their practices to tackle incidences of bullying and harassment, working towards encouraging an industry that treats staff with respect. The difference in approach is telling. The Game Awards are saying that as long as the big ticket games keep coming, it doesn't matter how many designers are hurt in the process. The BAFTAs are saying the well-being of the people making the games is just as important as the games themselves. It's a welcome step forward from the BAFTAs, while Keighley's show awarding a studio with one of the worst cultures in the industry, effectively Studio of the Year award, is a tragic step back. All of this boils down to one thing. The Gaming BAFTAs respect games. Geoff Keighley's Game Awards do not. The Gaming BAFTAs are an offshoot of the UK's premier TV and film award shows. They are treated with as much care and respect as those two, with the industry calling the shots and peers congratulating each other on their work. The effect of this is seeing great games rubbing shoulders with great movies on the BAFTA website, while the show itself is a bunch of people who love and understand games celebrating the best of the best. No desperate justification, just a statement that games are an audio-visual art form deserving of celebration and awards. The Game Awards, by contrast, are almost embarrassed to be a game show. The reluctance to let game designers give speeches for the vast majority of awards, the desperate inclusion of music performances and Hollywood movie stars, and the weird, cringy attempts to be down with the kids all feel like a show made under duress. That Geoff Keighley wishes he was part of the celebrity crowd and not in the games industry. This may not be true, but his show certainly comes across that way. It's desperate and sad, quite frankly. I'm sure there are financial reasons for all of this. The amount of ads in the show suggest a desperate need to fund it, which is why so many of the jokes feel like corporate suits looking at a spreadsheet that says memes are popular and going, "This will make us money." But there has to be a better way. If the BAFTA Game Awards can provide games with all the glitz and glamour afforded to their contemporaries in film and TV, then surely Keighley could find a way to do that too, if he cared. So Geoff, if you're watching this, and I'm sure you're not, but if you are, please give the BAFTAs a watch. The past few years are all freely available on YouTube. They know how to make a show about games that celebrates them as an art form and as an entertainment medium. Because games are good, and they deserve the BAFTAs more than they deserve the Game Awards. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like down below if you fancy it. I've got more of this sort of thing coming, so make sure you're subscribed, and if you can, I'd appreciate your support over on Patreon. I'd also love to see you in the new Discord community where we can all hang out and discuss the BAFTA winners, among other things. Whatever you feel like, it's going to be good. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I'll see you next time. Bye!